The thunder of hooves against dry earth filled the air as Eleanor Byrne raced across the open plain, her pale blue dress billowing behind her like a storm cloud. It wasn't proper for a lady to ride astride in 1876, but Eleanor had long stopped caring what was proper, especially when her brother's taunting words still rang in her ears. "You'll never survive out here, Ellie. You're too weak for the West." Eleanor urged her mare faster, tears stinging her eyes as the wind whipped against her face. At 22, she was tired of being told what she couldn't do. After their parents died, her brother Thomas had brought her to Wyoming Territory from Boston, claiming the fresh air would do her good. What he really wanted was someone to cook and clean while he built his cattle empire. The horse stumbled slightly on uneven ground, jarring Eleanor back to awareness. She'd ridden farther than intended, the silhouette of her brother's ranch no longer visible on the horizon. A trickle of fear replaced her anger. Getting lost in Wyoming's vast wilderness was a death sentence. As she slowed her mare to assess her surroundings, a crack of gunfire split the air. Eleanor's horse reared, throwing her unceremoniously to the ground. Pain shot through her ankle as she tumbled, her head striking a rock. The last thing she saw before darkness claimed her was her beloved mare bolting away toward the distant mountains. Eleanor awoke to the gentle crackling of a campfire and the smell of coffee. For a disorienting moment, she thought she was back home in Boston, until the ache in her head and ankle brought reality crashing back. "You're finally awake," was beginning to worry. The deep voice startled her. Eleanor struggled to sit up, wincing at the pain. Across the small fire sat a man, perhaps 28 or 29, with weathered skin that spoke of years under the harsh western sun. His dark hair was slightly too long, curling at the nape of his neck beneath a well-worn hat. Eyes the color of whiskey studied her carefully. "Who are you?" Eleanor demanded, her voice raspy. "Name's Henry Prescott, madam." He tipped his hat slightly. "Found you unconscious about 5 miles from here, brought you to my camp." Eleanor glanced around. They were in a small clearing surrounded by aspens, a canvas tent pitched nearby. Her ankle had been carefully wrapped. "My horse, gone, I'm afraid, though I saw tracks heading east." He poured coffee into a tin cup and offered it to her. "Mind telling me why a lady like yourself was riding hell bent across open country?" Eleanor accepted the cup with shaking hands. "My brother and I had a disagreement." Henry's mouth twitched. "Must have been quite the disagreement. He said I was too weak to survive out here," she blurted, then immediately regretted sharing so much with a stranger. "That I should return to Boston where I belong." "And you wanted to prove him wrong by getting yourself killed." Henry raised an eyebrow. Eleanor bristled. "I wasn't trying to get myself killed, I just needed." She faltered, unsure how to explain the suffocating feeling that had driven her to flee. "Space to breathe," Henry finished for her. "I understand that well enough." Something in his tone made Eleanor look at him more carefully. There was kindness in his face, despite the hard lines etched by sun and hardship. "Are you a rancher?" she asked, noting his practical clothing. Henry laughed. "Not exactly. I'm what folks around here call a problem solver. I break horses, track rustlers, hunt when needed, whatever pays for my next meal. A cowboy, then, if you like." He stirred the beans cooking in a small pot. "Your ankle's not broken, just a bad sprain. Head's got a nasty bump, though. You should rest before trying to make it back to your brother's place." Eleanor tensed. "I'm not going back." Henry gave her a long look. "Madam Eleanor," she corrected. "Eleanor Byrne, Miss Byrne. Wyoming Territory isn't kind to lone women with no plan." "I have a plan," she insisted, though nothing could be further from the truth. Henry's expression told her he wasn't fooled. "Well, Miss Byrne, you're welcome to share my camp tonight. Tomorrow we'll figure out what to do with you." Despite her indignation at being spoken of like a lost package, Eleanor was grateful. Night was falling and the temperature dropping rapidly. She accepted the plate of beans Henry offered, surprised by how hungry she was. As they ate in silence, Eleanor studied her rescuer. His hands were calloused, his movements efficient. A gun belt hung within easy reach, though he didn't have the dangerous look of the outlaws she'd glimpsed in town. "Why did you help me?" she finally asked. Henry considered her question. "Out here, we help those in need." Might be us needing help next time, he set his plate aside. Get some rest, Miss Byrne. You can have the tent. I'll keep watch out here. Eleanor wanted to protest that she wasn't helpless, but exhaustion pulled at her. She limped to the tent with Henry's assistance, surprised by the gentleness of his weathered hands. "Thank you," she murmured. His answering smile transformed his face. "You're stronger than you look, Miss Byrne. Most Boston ladies would be hysterical after such a tumble." The unexpected compliment warmed her more than the fire. As she drifted to sleep on Henry's bedroll, Eleanor wondered if perhaps she might survive the West after all. Morning brought clarity and embarrassment. Eleanor emerged from the tent to find Henry cooking breakfast, his horse saddled nearby. "I've acted foolishly," she admitted, lowering herself carefully beside the fire. "My brother will be worried." Henry handed her a plate of fried salt pork and biscuits. Brothers often are, even when they're being jackasses. The crude word startled a laugh from Eleanor. "Thomas means well. He just doesn't understand me. Few men understand women, Miss Byrne. Doesn't give them the right to belittle them." Eleanor studied him curiously. "You speak as though you've known many women." A shadow crossed Henry's face. "Had a sister once. She was plenty strong, but the world didn't see it that way. Consumption took her 3 years back." He said it matter-of-factly, but Eleanor sensed the grief beneath his words. "I'm sorry," she hesitated. "My parents died of influenza last year. That's why I came west with Thomas." Henry nodded, understanding passing between them. "Finish your breakfast. We should head out while the day's young." As Eleanor ate, she considered her options. Return to Thomas and his suffocating expectations, or, what, she had no money, no skills the West valued. What town is closest? She asked suddenly. Henry glanced up. "Willow Creek's about 15 miles southwest. Why?" "Perhaps they need a schoolteacher. I was educated at Miss Porter's school in Connecticut." Henry's expression was skeptical. "Willow Creek's a rough place, Miss Byrne. Mostly miners and the folks who cater to them." "All the more reason they might need education," Eleanor persisted. Before Henry could respond, the sound of approaching riders made them both tense. Henry's hand moved to his gun as he stood, positioning himself between Eleanor and the newcomers. 3 riders appeared through the trees, Thomas Byrne in the lead. His face was thunderous as he spotted Eleanor. "Thank God," he exclaimed, dismounting. "I've been searching all night." His relief quickly hardened to anger as he noticed Henry. "Who the hell are you?" "Henry Prescott," came the calm reply. "Found your sister unconscious after a fall from her horse yesterday." Thomas barely acknowledged him, storming toward Eleanor. "What were you thinking, Ellie? You could have been killed." Eleanor struggled to her feet, wincing at the pain in her ankle. "I was thinking I needed to get away from your constant criticism." "Criticism? I'm trying to protect you." Thomas gestured wildly at the wilderness around them. "This isn't Boston. There are 1,000 ways to die out here." "I'm well aware," Eleanor retorted. "Yet somehow local women manage to survive. Are they simply sturdier stock than me?" Thomas's face reddened. "That's different. They were raised, sir," Henry interrupted, his voice quiet but commanding. "Your sister suffered a head injury and sprained ankle. Perhaps save the lecture for when she's recovered." Thomas rounded on him. "And what's your interest in my sister, Cowboy? Found yourself a pretty Eastern girl to take advantage of." Henry's expression didn't change, but something dangerous flickered in his eyes. "Mr. Byrne, I suggest you reconsider your words." Eleanor stepped between them. "Henry saved me, Thomas. I'd likely still be lying unconscious if not for him." Thomas seemed to notice her injury for the first time, his anger deflating slightly. "We need to get you home. Dr. Williams can examine you." "I've wrapped similar injuries before," Henry said. "Nothing's broken, but she shouldn't ride alone." Thomas signaled to his men. "Jenkins can take her on his horse." "I'd prefer to ride with Henry," Eleanor said quickly, surprising herself. Thomas stared at her. "You've known this man for what, a day? And in that day, he's shown me more respect than you have in months." The words tumbled out before Eleanor could stop them. A tense silence fell. One of Thomas's men coughed awkwardly. "We should go," Thomas finally said, his voice cold. "Mr. Prescott, I appreciate your assistance with my sister. I'll compensate you for your trouble." Henry's jaw tightened. "No compensation needed." Eleanor felt tears threatening. After standing up to her brother, she was too weary to argue about the journey home. She turned to Henry, wishing they could have parted under different circumstances. "Thank you for everything," she said quietly. Henry studied her face, then nodded once. "Take care of yourself, Miss Byrne." As Jenkins helped her onto his horse, Eleanor fought the strange sense of loss washing over her. She'd known Henry Prescott for less than a day, yet leaving him felt like abandoning a possibility she couldn't quite name. The Byrne Ranch was impressive by Wyoming standards: a large main house, bunkhouse for the ranch hands, substantial barn and corrals spread across the valley floor. It had been Eleanor's home for 8 months, yet she still felt like a visitor. Dr. Williams confirmed Henry's assessment: a mild concussion and sprained ankle. He prescribed rest, which suited Eleanor fine. It meant avoiding Thomas and his inevitable lecture. For 3 days, Eleanor remained in her room, attended by Mrs. Finch, their housekeeper. On the 4th morning, Eleanor insisted on joining breakfast despite her lingering limp. Thomas looked up from his newspaper when she entered. "Should you be up?" Dr. Williams said movement would help the ankle heal, Eleanor replied, taking her seat. They ate in uncomfortable silence until Thomas cleared his throat. "I've been thinking about our disagreement," Eleanor tensed. "Yes, perhaps I've been overprotective." He folded his newspaper. "You're my only family, Ellie. I couldn't bear it if something happened to you." "I understand that, Thomas, but treating me like I'm made of glass isn't protection, it's imprisonment." Thomas flinched. "That's not my intention, but it's the result." Eleanor set down her fork. "I want to contribute, Thomas, not just by keeping house, but meaningfully." "What did you have in mind?" Eleanor took a deep breath. "I want to teach. There are children on neighboring ranches getting no education." Thomas looked skeptical. "Out here, most folks are more concerned with survival than schooling." "Education is survival," Eleanor countered. "Think about it, wouldn't you benefit from hands who could read contracts, calculate figures?" Thomas considered this. "Perhaps, but where would you teach? The nearest proper town is 30 miles away." "We could use the old bunkhouse. It's been empty since you built the new one." To Eleanor's surprise, Thomas didn't immediately dismiss the idea. "Let me think on it." It wasn't agreement, but it was more consideration than she'd expected. As they finished breakfast, Eleanor felt a small spark of hope. That spark dimmed when Thomas added, "By the way, the Whitfield family is coming for dinner next week. Their son Richard is taking over their banking interests in the territory." Eleanor recognized the matchmaking attempt immediately. "Thomas, just dinner, Ellie." "He's a good man with prospects." She bit back her frustration. One battle at a time, she reminded herself. The following days brought unexpected progress. Thomas agreed to Eleanor's school proposal, even ordering lumber to renovate the old bunkhouse. Eleanor threw herself into planning, writing to her former teachers for curriculum advice and cataloging what books she had that might serve as textbooks. A week passed, then 2. Eleanor's ankle healed and she began riding again, though never alone. Thomas insisted a ranch hand accompany her. She chafed at the restriction but recognized it as compromise. On a cool autumn morning, Eleanor was supervising the bunkhouse renovations when a familiar figure rode into the ranch yard. Her heart skipped as she recognized Henry Prescott atop his dun gelding. Thomas emerged from the barn, tensing when he spotted Henry. The two men exchanged words Eleanor couldn't hear, then Thomas pointed toward the bunkhouse. Henry dismounted and headed her way, hat in hand. "Miss Byrne," he greeted her, a smile softening his weathered face. "You're looking well." "Mr. Prescott," Eleanor fought to keep her voice steady, "what brings you to our ranch? Your brother put word out that he's looking for someone to build desks for a schoolhouse." Henry gestured to the bunkhouse. "I do carpentry work when ranching's slow." Eleanor couldn't hide her surprise. "I didn't know you were a carpenter." "Told you I'm a problem solver," his eyes crinkled. "Heard this was your project." Pride filled Eleanor's chest. "It is. We'll start with just a few students' children from neighboring ranches, but I hope it will grow." Henry nodded approvingly. "Smart idea." "Mind showing me what you're thinking for the desks?" Eleanor led him inside, detailing her vision for the space. Henry listened attentively, asking thoughtful questions and offering practical suggestions. His genuine interest touched her deeply. Why are you really here, Mr. Prescott? She finally asked. Surely there's more lucrative work than building school desks. Henry studied her for a moment. Been thinking about you, Miss Byrne. Wanted to see if you were all right. The simple honesty of his answer left Eleanor speechless. Before she could respond, Thomas appeared in the doorway. Prescott, if you want the job, you can start tomorrow. $5 for the lot. Fair enough, Henry agreed, his eyes still on Eleanor. I'll be here at sunrise. That night, Eleanor could barely sleep, anticipation fluttering in her stomach. She told herself it was excitement about the school taking shape, not about seeing Henry again. Henry proved to be as skilled with wood as he was with horses. Over the next week, he crafted 10 sturdy desks, a teacher's desk, and a blackboard frame. He worked quickly but meticulously, often staying past sundown to finish a piece. Eleanor found excuses to check on his progress, bringing him water or coffee, discussing design details. Their conversations gradually extended beyond the school project, revealing shared interests in literature and natural history. Henry had educated himself through books traded along his travels, developing a perspective that fascinated Eleanor. Thomas watched their growing friendship with evident displeasure, but made no move to intervene. The promised dinner with Richard Whitfield came and went, with Eleanor being politely disinterested in the banker's son. On the day Henry completed the final desk, Eleanor brought him coffee as the sun was setting. They sat on the schoolhouse steps, watching the sky turn crimson and gold. It's beautiful, Eleanor murmured. Wyoming has its moments, Henry agreed. Different kind of beauty than Boston, I imagine. I used to think Boston's carefully tended gardens were the height of beauty, Eleanor admitted. Now they seem confined, Henry smiled. Wild things need space to grow properly. Is that what I am now, a wild thing, getting there, he teased. Then more seriously, you've changed since I found you that day. Eleanor considered this. I suppose I have. Starting this school has given me purpose. It's more than that. Henry turned to face her. You carry yourself differently, more sure. His observation warmed her. Thank you for helping make this possible. The school was your idea, your determination. But you built it, literally. Eleanor hesitated. Will you stay for the opening, next Monday? Henry looked away. Don't think your brother would appreciate that. I'm inviting you. Their eyes met and something unspoken passed between them. Before Henry could respond, Thomas called from the main house. I should go, Eleanor said reluctantly. Henry nodded. I'll finish up here. The following morning, Eleanor found an exquisitely carved wooden apple on her desk, Henry's parting gift. He had moved on to his next job, leaving only his craftsmanship behind. Eleanor traced the perfect curves of the wooden fruit, fighting disappointment. She'd known Henry was a drifter, yet somehow she'd hoped. She placed the apple carefully on the windowsill and focused on preparing for her students. The school opening was a success. 6 children arrived that first day, ages ranging from 5 to 14. By the end of the week, word had spread, and 3 more families had enrolled their children. Teaching filled Eleanor with satisfaction she'd never known in Boston society. These frontier children were eager to learn, their questions sometimes challenging her own knowledge. She found herself studying late into the night to keep ahead of their curiosity. Thomas, seeing her success, gradually relaxed his protectiveness. Eleanor earned the respect of neighboring ranchers, who began treating her as more than Thomas Byrne's fragile sister. 2 months passed. Winter descended on Wyoming, bringing blizzards that sometimes kept students home. During one such storm, Eleanor was organizing her small library when she heard horses in the yard. Thomas burst into the house, snow coating his heavy coat. Cattle are scattered across the north pasture. If we don't get them to shelter, we'll lose half the herd. What can I do? Eleanor asked immediately. Thomas hesitated only briefly. We need every hand. Can you prepare food for the men? They'll need something hot when they return. It wasn't quite the assistance Eleanor had meant, but she nodded, hurrying to the kitchen. Through the window, she watched as ranch hands mounted up, preparing to face the blizzard. As she worked, worry gnawed at her. The storm was worsening, visibility nearly zero. Men and cattle alike could easily become disoriented, freeze to death in such conditions. Hours passed with no word. Eleanor kept coffee brewing and stew simmering, straining to hear returning riders. When the kitchen door finally burst open, she turned expectantly. It wasn't Thomas, but one of the younger hands, Davy. "Miss Byrne, we need help. Mr. Byrne and 2 others are trapped in the North Ravine. Cattle spooked and they got separated from us." Eleanor's blood ran cold. "Are they injured?" "Don't know, madam. Can't get to them from horseback, ravines too steep in this weather." Eleanor made a swift decision. "Gather ropes and lanterns. I know another way into that ravine." Davy looked doubtful. "Mr. Byrne wouldn't want you out in this storm." "My brother's life matters more than his wishes right now." Eleanor was already pulling on her heavy coat. "I used to explore those ravines last summer. There's a gentler slope on the east side." Reluctantly, Davy helped gather supplies. 2 other hands joined them, their faces grim. The temperature was dropping rapidly as night approached. The journey to the ravine was brutal. Wind drove snow into their faces, horses struggling through deepening drifts. Eleanor led them to the eastern approach she remembered, praying her summer explorations would serve them in winter's fury. The descent was treacherous, but possible. At the ravine floor, they found Thomas and his men huddled against a rock face, one man clearly injured. Thomas's eyes widened in disbelief when he saw Eleanor. "Ellie, what in God's name, save it," she interrupted, helping the uninjured hand secure a rope around the wounded man. "We need to get everyone out before this storm worsens." Working together, they managed to get the injured man up the slope. Thomas followed, then the remaining hand. Eleanor came last, fighting exhaustion as she climbed. Near the top, her foot slipped on ice-covered rock. She cried out as she fell, catching herself painfully on an outcropping. Thomas shouted from above, but the howling wind swallowed his words. As Eleanor struggled to regain her footing, a strong hand grasped her arm. She looked up, expecting Davy or one of the other hands. Instead, she found herself staring into familiar whiskey-colored eyes. "Henry, hang on," he shouted over the wind, his grip secure as he helped her climb the remaining distance. At the top, Eleanor collapsed into the snow, breathing heavily. Thomas was organizing the men, getting the injured hand onto a horse. "Can you ride?" Henry asked, his face inches from hers. Eleanor nodded, though every muscle screamed in protest. Henry helped her onto his horse, then swung up behind her. His solid warmth against her back was the only comfort in the swirling white nightmare. The group made their way slowly back to the ranch, Henry's arms around Eleanor as he guided his horse through the storm. She wanted to ask why he was there, how he'd found them, but conservation of energy seemed more important than conversation. At the ranch, organized chaos ensued. The injured hand was taken to a spare bedroom for treatment. The others gathered in the kitchen, where Eleanor's prepared food awaited them. Thomas insisted Eleanor change into dry clothes before rejoining them. When she returned to the kitchen, she found Henry sitting alone at the table, hands wrapped around a coffee mug. He stood when she entered. "Your brother's checking on Jenkins," he explained. "Doctor's been sent for." Eleanor nodded, suddenly shy. "Why were you with them, in the storm?" "Wasn't with them originally." Henry gestured for her to sit. "I came looking for you, actually. Got caught in the blizzard and ran into your brother's men searching for strays." "Looking for me?" "Why?" Henry's weathered face softened. "It's nearly Christmas. Thought you might like another apple for your collection." He reached into his pocket and pulled out another wooden carving, this one a perfect miniature horse. Eleanor took it, fingers tracing the detailed mane. "It's beautiful." "Not my only reason," Henry admitted. "Been taking steady work in Willow Creek, carpentry mostly, some horse breaking." "Town's growing. They're talking about needing a school." Eleanor's heart quickened. "Are they?" Town council mentioned they'd pay good money for an experienced teacher." His eyes held hers. "Someone who's proven they can educate frontier children." Before Eleanor could respond, Thomas entered, stamping snow from his boots. He paused, looking between them. "Jenkins will be fine once the doctor sees to his arm," he announced. "Prescott, you saved our hides out there. I'm grateful." Henry nodded acknowledgement. "Your sister's the one who knew how to reach you." Thomas looked at Eleanor, something new in his expression. Yes, she did. He cleared his throat. Eleanor, what you did tonight was foolhardy and dangerous. Eleanor tensed, preparing for the familiar criticism. And Thomas continued, the bravest damn thing I've ever seen. He crossed to her, placing a hand on her shoulder. You saved our lives. Tears pricked Eleanor's eyes at this unexpected acknowledgement. Thomas turned to Henry. You're welcome to stay until the storm passes. There's room in the bunkhouse. After Thomas left, silence stretched between Eleanor and Henry. Did you mean it? She finally asked. About Willow Creek needing a teacher, every word. Henry leaned forward. Town's growing fast, lots of families settling. They're building a proper schoolhouse come spring. Thomas would never allow me to move to Willow Creek alone. Might have been true before tonight. Henry's gaze was steady. But I saw how he looked at you just now. He finally sees what I saw that first day. Which is that you're stronger than anyone gives you credit for, including yourself. Henry reached across the table, his calloused fingers brushing hers. You're strong enough to build something that matters, strong enough to save lives in a blizzard. Eleanor turned her hand to clasp his. Strong enough to start a new life, if that's what you want. And where would you be in this new life? Henry's smile deepened. Wherever you'd have me, Miss Byrne. The blizzard raged for 3 days, keeping everyone confined to the ranch. During that time, something shifted between Thomas and Eleanor. He began asking her opinion on ranch matters, listening when she spoke, seeing her as a partner rather than a burden. On the storm's 4th day, when Henry prepared to leave, Thomas pulled Eleanor aside. That cowboy's sweet on you, Ellie. Eleanor didn't deny it. Yes, and you on him. She met her brother's gaze steadily. Yes, Thomas sighed. He told me about Willow Creek School, he did. Says it would suit you. Thomas looked out the window where Henry was saddling his horse. He's not what I imagined for you, but then you've never been what I imagined either. Eleanor waited, heart pounding. If you want to teach in Willow Creek come spring, I won't stand in your way. Thomas turned back to her. But I have conditions. Eleanor braced herself. You visit regularly. You take care of yourself, and if that cowboy doesn't treat you properly, you tell me so I can shoot him. A startled laugh escaped Eleanor. Is that all? For now. Thomas's expression softened. You're not weak, Ellie. I was wrong about that, maybe wrong about a lot of things. Eleanor embraced her brother, feeling a new understanding between them. Outside, she found Henry checking his saddle cinch one last time. My brother says Willow Creek is 15 miles southwest, she said. Henry looked up. Thereabouts, that's not so far. Eleanor stepped closer. Not too far for regular visits. Hope kindled in Henry's eyes. No, not too far at all. I'll need someone to build bookshelves for my new schoolhouse, she continued. Someone good with wood. I might know someone suitable. Henry's mouth curved into a smile. Someone who thinks you're exactly as strong as you need to be. Eleanor closed the distance between them, propriety forgotten. When should I come to Willow Creek? Whenever you're ready. Henry's hand came up to touch her cheek. I'll be waiting. In the spring of 1877, Eleanor Byrne became Willow Creek's first schoolteacher. By Christmas, she became Henry Prescott in a small ceremony attended by Thomas and the town's growing population. The school flourished under her guidance, expanding as the town grew. Henry's carpentry business prospered alongside it, his craftsmanship sought throughout the territory. Their home, built by Henry's hands, filled with wooden carvings, apples, horses, and eventually tiny cradles for the children who came. Years later, when visitors remarked on the unlikely match between the refined schoolteacher and the weathered cowboy, Eleanor would smile and say the West had taught her the most important lesson. True strength wasn't about power or independence, but knowing when to stand firm and when to lean on those who believed in you, even when you didn't believe in yourself. And Henry, his hair now streaked with silver, would simply take her hand and say with quiet certainty, "She's always been strong enough. For the West, for our family, and for me."